اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق وهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره وقدره العظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. الحمد لله رب العالمين. أفضل الصلاة وتم تسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ورضي الله تعالى عن هذا السادة التابعين علماء عاملين وأئمة أربعين مجتهدين مقلديهم إلا يوم الدين. أما بعد. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Welcome everyone to open panel discussion on the Soullutionz podcast. Waiting on the other participants to chime in. Well, until then, we're gonna without further ado, just gonna do a little bit of brainstorming, hitting on certain topics or points that we may just that we may have to address, and work out some see how we can direct the attention towards these different topics and issues and things that we're dealing with in society among the Muslim community, and the non-Muslim community is not exempt from these as well, because we all live in the same socioeconomic and political conditions that we are faced with in America. Alhamdulillah. Okay. So I guess wait for a few people to come on, wait for a few people to come on, but inshallah ta'ala, we could let me start off with the topic, a few topics that we can address, and it's for these are the future, some future topics, like so one topic is our social political, our social political status in America. Another topic is what our political position in regards to establishing Islam, establishing ourselves as ethnic minorities, as Muslims and non-Muslims alike. Many of us being from descendants of slaves that was brought here against their will, and some of us are from families and lineages to where our families migrated here. Our families migrated here from other lands, from different ethnicities that blended into the communities here in America. Let me see. Just see. Wait. I don't want to be rambling, and I'm rambling to myself. Rambling to myself, without any listeners. But as I do understand, this is being recorded. This is being recorded. So we have the message that we bring, and then tied into our message is our social reform message. The social reform message is dealing with all of the things that we don't touch on, that we don't address in a community that's related to politics, related to financing, related to communities having almost told Muhammad, having autonomy here uh, in this land, and the dire need uh, to be educated about secular knowledge that's beneficial and religious knowledge that's beneficial. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Nobody came on yet. Subhanallah. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I don't know who this is. It says Facebook user. Okay, alhamdulillah. We got one viewer. I mean, we're gonna start shortly. Actually, I mean, there's no wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We're just having a basically, an open discussion, just touching on some issues, some points, some future topics that we could talk about. I mean, to bring about a solution or a solution. Waiting on a few of the other hosts to come on so we can get this started. I was just rambling along a few minutes. I mean, just for the sake of the recording, because we are recording this podcast. We are recording this podcast, and so a lot of times we have a lot of times we have a lot of issues that we don't they either are not brought up, or they're pushed under the rug among our community. And in reality, the Muslims should always be active in the community, because every community you have Muslims in the community. Like where I live at right now, currently living in PA, Philadelphia. Every in my neighborhood alone, every other house there's a Muslim in that household, or every 5 6 houses there's a Muslim in the household. So you look in that household, or a Muslim family. So you have like one block, whether it's a ducky block or a regular a regular city street block, may have like 6 or 10 Muslim families on each block. And that's just giving like a rough draft, not necessarily saying that that's what it is or a statistic or anything, but basically on every block you have Muslims who live on that block. It's very seldom you go into a neighborhood here in Philadelphia, where no one knows about the Muslims. All right, now, it may be some people that may be ignorant about the different groups among the Muslims. It's possible, and then there's some people that's totally educated about who the real Muslims are and who the pseudo Muslims are. You know, so they'd be able to tell the difference. You know, so and then in some cases, like the city where I come from the Midwest, come from Chicago. I would say like maybe every in each neighborhood, right? And it depends on which neighborhood that you live in. Like for example, the neighborhood that I was born in the South Shore area. South Shore is from 67th and Stony Island, 67th and Stony Island to like 79th and South Shore Drive. Actually, I wasn't born in South Shore. I was born in uh, um, Avalon. I was born in Avalon Park. My bad. I was born in Avalon Park. Avalon Park is 79th and Stony to 83rd and no 85th and Stony, from Stony Island to like Ingleside and like Ingleside, and you know, so like yeah, like Ingleside. So Ingleside is in between Cottage Grove and you know, between Cottage Grove and Stony Island. But Avalon Park, when I was born over there, it was like I want to say like the middle class, African American middle class in that area. Um, back then it wasn't like a it was a gang, it was gangs over there. It was a gang over there. It was two, as a matter of fact, but it wasn't a whole lot of gang activity in the area. So it was like the people in the community that was homeowners. A lot of people owned homes. A lot of these people who owned homes in Avalon Park during that time, they also owned businesses. Like my grandmother, she had a limousine company that she contracted out to a funeral service, and then she had, and it was also a entertainment transportation part to her limousine business that she had started when they moved from Memphis. My grandmother moved my mother, my auntie, and my oldest uncle that's dead now, been dead since I was little, to from Memphis to Chicago. This was like in the early 50s, like the mid like 55, something like that. I mean, so and she, she had a job working at the time, Three Sisters. That's a old that's an old women's clothing store. Three Sisters. They had some men clothes as well, but they was basically for children. All right, so during this time in these areas, you had some Muslim families. You had some Muslim families, those that was, and during that time, the Nation of Islam was the face of the Muslims in Chicago in the early 70s, late 60s. You had also during that time you had the Black Panthers that was active during that time there. I mean that they was working together to try to politicize the gangs and bring about a program to where they all came together on the bottom under one body, a pot body politics. You know what I'm saying? Related to self determination. They had or I don't want to say peace treaties, but they had established like the LSDs, the Lord Stones and Disciples. You know what I mean? And this was like where they came together almost of like a sense of a peace treaty coming together to like correct some of the wrongs that was done in the community and to keep peace among them, keep peace among each other. You know what I'm saying? So that that particular topic, you know, it actually goes into a bigger topic, as it relates to a lot of to some of the leadership. I had made a post um, a few days ago and I made a post on Facebook a few days ago that where I said that the best African American Muslim leaders used to be former gang leaders because they were the best followers who was trained in society to become the best leaders. And this post, it had turned into like 66 or 68 different comments. So it was like one thread, but it had like 4 or 5 different threads on it. Only a few people that was commenting was actually commenting things that was related to the post. And I had mentioned in a couple of my comments what I meant by what I meant by this post, what I was actually talking about. You know what I'm saying? And this is one of the things that we as Muslims, I mean, we tend to not try to associate ourselves with the subculture that America provides. America is a melting pot. It's not no one set American culture. Everything that is filtered into America is a subculture. The mob syndicate is a subculture. The street gangs, the street tribes, or street organizations is a subculture. The social service, put it like that, but it's still a social service, but it's involving crime. You know what I'm saying? Crime in America is a subculture. Politics, they have made it into a subculture and connected it to crime and connected it to social change. And then you have the adult service industry. I mean, which, you know, the pimp industry. I'm gonna just put it like that. The pimp industry. All of these things are subcultures. You know what I mean? So it's not. I'm not saying that America does not have a culture, but as it relates to our people, we have like a lot of things intertwined that when you ask about, someone asks what is African American culture or what is Black culture in America, first thing that come to mind is music, right? If not music, then the numbers, which, you know what I'm saying, the numbers is something that was, because it wasn't legal during the 30s and the late 20s, it was one of the illegal subcultures that they connected to crime by default. But in actuality, it was a system to help families put food on the table, right? I mean, and it dealt with the racetrack. You know what I'm saying? Numbers running and all of that. So all of, you know what I'm saying, even bootlegging, all of this stuff was related to subculture, and they try to like um, put a division in it, because each one of these things is related to self-preservation, self-determination, establishing economics, establishing economics. I mean, the street tribes, they was formed to start to establish protection. Protection from who? Protection from no from those who are oppressing them, the police. You know what I'm saying? Protection from other ethnicities of people that want to hurt them. You know what I mean? So these topics are kind of like taboo topics that many quote unquote Muslim leaders don't want to talk about or address. Right? They don't want to talk about or address, which we're not gonna get a solution to combat them problem. You mean to combat them problems. But however, I mean, we'll be in have a sense of awareness of what we have to deal with and work on to bring about things that related to social change. I'm trying to like fix this joint.
Assalamu alaikum.
So, Walaikum salam rahmatullah. Man,
I was just talking
something
about
wrong with
what's social
yeah.
change. We're talking about like Jamaat, the importance of Jamaat and things. Just kind of like to add into what you're talking about. One of the things that I do see, uh, even in the Black American indigenous community, is within those subcultures, how you mentioned about culture, you have a culture and then you have a subculture. It's literally like the scheme of Fir'aun, where he divided the people into Shia. And amongst that group, he oppressed the group. And so, this oppression of these groups is basically taking away things, keeping away things from them, and so on and so forth. And so, as you see the similarities of even in the plantation when they had, many of the blacks on the plantation, they always had that overseer and the preacher always played a part. And then you also had, the stud. And if you put them together parallel, right? You have that weaker group. If you look at the groups, all of the groups that are in subcategory groups and the groups of culture, everyone around in America identifies as a culture, but the people that always debate about what is their culture and what their culture is, and is always those weak, oppressed, uh, and this is Black Americans and Latinos, right? Then what you also recognize is that group, and it's constructed like this. That same group that's like basically singled out to be that oppressed group, that weaker group, their knowledge is also the knowledge that they would need for the basic necessities of life. And you're just talking about even just on the academic level, right? And when I'm saying on the academic level, I'm talking about schools. The poor, their education level is lower than those who are more wealthy. So it's already systemically set up in order for one group to succeed, the other one to fail. And they give you false hope by saying, like, only if you had money, then you'll be able to succeed. Now, I'm going to bring this same parallel into Black American Islam. Now, you always had the church. The church always played a vital role in the Black community, right? And it was always a variety of churches. And some churches, you go there, you just get the word of the Lord, and then you got the other church, who, you know, you got the other church where you have, they are tied into the politics. And in this church, It's like you go there, it's like basically like a all women's church, and then you have this church, and then you have the little small storefront churches, and then and you'll start to see that you have the same parallel with the different masajids today, right? Now, this masjid, you may go to this masjid. This masjid has a little bit more money, so they afforded certain opportunities, right? As far as education wise and so on and so forth. But then you have the other group that's being neglected educationally, and so then they struggle and strive to do the best, the best that they can, and and make it the best way. But then what you have is the other group criticizing the other group and putting down. And then what happens also is that you have people that are put in place to educate these lower end people who don't have no money, and they only educate them up to a certain point. The same way that you'll see is set up systemically, even in the school system. School system, you're only allowed to go, you can only go but so far, especially in the inner cities, in the inner city school systems, right? It depends on what zip code you come from. Their tax bracket, the more you pay taxes, the better it is. So it is an illusion, because everyone's not going to have that money. So then what happens is that you have the poor, they're aspiring to make this kind of wealth to be able to cross over and submerge themselves and assimilate into a community or society, and abandon building their own, and establishing their own community. So anyway, so these plants that they're putting there, right? When I say plants, I'm talking about these charlatan leaders and students of knowledge, imams and sheikhs and all this stuff. They're put in there, and the only thing that they seem to do is keep the wheel of fitness spinning. They keep the wheel of fitness spinning. So they'll come in and they'll teach them issues that are controversy, but the average person, they don't know how to pray. So then what you'll find in this uneducated community is people in and out of Islam, right? Islam's not working for them. They don't know how to organize and structure themselves where they can move as a unit. They don't know how to collectively work together, and then on top of that, they're spewing the language, the venom of separation. Let's break up, right? Go on a smaller schism. So they need, they get done attacking another large body of group. They pull enough followers, and then they go back to attacking the smaller number of people, right? Which keeps them in that same little vacuum. And so then Allah is the one who gives hidayah, and he may bless a group of people to elevate and excel in knowledge without the assistance of the plant, the so-called the plant scholar, critic, pontificator, whatever you want to call him. That plant, he excels without them. And so then what happens after that? Now there's a rival battle. And so then what they use is they rely on using their credentials and accolades in order to condemn a people who are struggling that you neglected in the first place. See, if you look at it, when you look at the Islamic, the Islamic black community, the black community at large has always been neglected, and those who have money are not really real concerned about Islamic knowledge, because what happens with that wealth, you feel that you can demand certain things, and you feel you want a particular level, so they demand the knowledge to entertain them. They don't always look at Islamic knowledge as hidayah, as guidance, and they don't look at it, from an aspect that every nation and tribe where Islam entered, it always elevated people, especially those people who are the so-called low-end people, right? Or the people of disadvantage, or the lesser people. So you tie that in with the people with no knowledge itself, and you have what you have today is a constant hamster wheel, right? The only way that you can build that is that you're going to have to separate yourself. Even during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, they even separated themselves away from the Quraysh, from the mainstream, the mainstream population. They separated themselves. They started to educate themselves, right? When they were forced out of Medina, not only did they begin to educate themselves, because they were still buying and trading, in the everyday established markets in Mecca, but they were forced outside, and they were forced to migrate, to leave Medina and go to Mecca and establish themselves, that where they actually became, autonomous, where they were able to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without the interference of the disbelievers, right? Now, that's not saying that the disbelievers aren't going to be envious. They're not going to come and attack, because they're afraid of the message being spread even further. But the problem is that reason why it's not working for the indigenous, because all of the sicknesses that we suffer from prior to Islam, we still have the same sicknesses now, even as Muslims, right? You know, when you pay attention to the hip hop world, you know, you have this entourage versus that entourage. This entourage, this is that entourage, you know, and say and call this entourage something, you know, it's almost like Boogie Down Productions versus Queensbridge, right? And so when you have that going on, so people are tuning in, listening over here this week, other people tuning over there, listening this week, and then once the beef dies out, then the people go back to doing their everyday thing, and then you only have one or two people sitting there trying to learn on a daily basis. So they figured, like, look, we want to get the classes popping, we want to get the people there, we got to start some more controversy. So then they realize the pattern, people are sparking interest about controversy, and then that's where people have phantom beefs. They got ghosts, you know, the ghost beef, they air fighting, you know, indirect subtweeting and everything else, and it just keeps going on. Yo, you guys are haters, and so on and so forth. And then what I realized is I used to think this stuff was ineffective, but then what they got now, what it morphed into now, what it's called is the cancel culture. All of this stuff was used by the Jahiliyyah, the pre-Islamic Arabs as well. They used to lie and say the Prophet ﷺ was crazy. They used to lie and say, you know, that he was a magician, that he was separating families, and so on and so forth. And you still have the same thing today. So when you have all of these things plaguing, and then you still have the same sicknesses that you had before you were Muslim, then you know the biggest thing that stops the growth is mistrust. And so they therefore you got a group of people looking at each other. Everybody's looking at each other sideways. It's always a cutthroat. You know, the crabs in the bottom of the barrel. As soon as one crab get up to the top, there's somebody with a crab to get over here and pull them back down into the barrel. They don't want to see each other, you know, see each other grow, you know, flourish or any of these things. And so this is what you're having today. How do you separate from that? The key word, you have to separate. You get with a group of like-minded people. Don't worry about the masses, right? Don't worry about the masses. You worry about those people who are sincere. It's about the quality of people versus the quantity of people, right? Can you buy into the objective? And then also we got to become more realistic, because the moment where you start who did you learn from? You know, the moment you start to make momentum, there's always going to be another plant that's in there that causes you to doubt and look at each other sideways. Look at him. He's trying to steal all my followers. Look at him. You know, he doesn't know Arabic like me. Look at him. He doesn't have the same scholars as me. Look at him. You know, who knows his scholars? Look at him. You know, these guys are ignorant. Look at them. They ain't got no money. Look at them. You know, these guys, all they do is just get married to each other. Look at them. You know, they pass women around. Look at them. And they cause all of these different things to go on in order to make people, you know, look at you sideways, in order to do what? To detract people away from you. And so therefore, you have this nonstop. And then it will escalate to the point, because people love controversy. And what did they say? Who was it? It was Jadakiss. What did he say? He said dead rappers get better promotion, right? Until eventually somebody gets killed or hurt behind the situation. And then it's like, man, right? Man, if you look at all of the earlier Islamic movements, where are they now? A lot of them are dying out. Where's the continuity? Where's the legacy? It's not being passed down. If you look at just even knowledge, why there's not why do people consider that there's no Black American scholarship in America? Because we're not leaving behind anything tangible to defend and say, yes, we are. Yes, we do. Because with most people want to be the leader, the center of attraction. The movement dies with them. They don't pass it down to the youth. They don't have a successor, right? They love to keep it ambiguous, because when they die, they keep everybody fighting. See, the Sahabas, when you look at them, Ridwanahum alayh, when you look at them and look at what they, you know, how they did after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam died, they like, look, we not even burying Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam until we decide who's the leader. Who's the leader? We say today we don't need a leader. Allah and his message is my leader. You know, like, you know, so, you know, these type of things are happening. And that we don't need a leader so bad that now it's even in your household. We don't need a leader. And that's why most households, most Muslim households are ran without a male in that household. The closest man you got is the son, and a son can never be a man standing on the back of his mother. She will always remind him that you're just a little boy to me, regardless. And so usually, what does that happen? The cub goes out, he leaves the nest, he just leaves, right? And when he leaves and go and find his way, that's probably like another 5 to 10 years wasted if he's not a young man that's focused. And what happens? It stumps the growth, it kills the continuity, and it doesn't grow. So we're back at square one. So then we're plagued by the same, like I said, the same jahiliyyah, the same ignorance that we had before Islam. We never left it, right? Then when we're part of become Muslim, you're still plagued by that same ignorance. The same behavior still exists, right? You're still facing the same problems. And then here, this is what you have today. So this cycle. So what is the solution? The like-minded have to get together and build a bond and a trust and be able to recognize, right, when people are trying to deter you from your mission. And you can't be so impulsive. You have to be able to look and see the vision in the long run. Otherwise, you're going to have the same old Negro stuff. Everybody follow me. Don't go over there. I'm the most knowledgeable. They don't have no knowledge. Follow us over here. Meanwhile, while you spending all this time wasting time on that, you know, those 10-year-olds that's in your masjid, those 12-year-olds, they'll soon be 18 and 20. And then by the time they hit 18 and 20, the only thing they thinking about is, I'm just gonna make some money, because these ninjas, they confused, and I don't want to be nothing like them. They ain't really thinking about Islam. You see what I'm saying? They just thinking about advancing, and usually what they do is because we allow the system to educate our children, right? And if you ever do your history on Hitler, that's how Hitler took over. He educated kids. He didn't want the old folks, because they doing exactly what I'm talking about. They sitting around, they fighting, arguing, don't care about things. And so this is what this goes on. The big eyes and little U's. Look at you. I got all the bread. You can't even come up. You ain't got this amount of money. You ain't got that money. You can't do this. This is what it is. Then also too, the other thing is that we have to elevate those whom the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith, the best of you in Jahiliyyah will be the best in Islam when you acquire fiqh. So our intelligent sidewalk graduates, we have to be, we have to climb up the ladder as well, right? We have to become men of in-depth insight. We have to be able to galvanize men. We was able to galvanize men when we were in the streets. You have to be able to galvanize men and organize men now as a Muslim. You have to use your influence, to strengthen that. But when we don't have that influence that's pulling, and you keep referring everything to the plant, that's what I refer to them as. That's the plant is any fake sheikh, imam, student of knowledge, whatever you want to call them, and he's not calling you to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they're not elevating in not just elevating, but also empowering the people. Then the only thing they're doing is spinning your wheels. You having a lot of money in the bank account don't mean anything. We done had Reverend Bottoms. We done had the Ike Love Oil, Dr. Love. We done had Dr. York. We done had the ministers. We done had it all. They built mansions while you still live in the projects, right? So we already know where that comes from. You see? So, the accountability. I think, so this is the solution. The solution is that there has to be some kind of, a time where you say, yo, enough is enough. You have to separate yourself. In order to do better, you have to leave the people that you're always around. You got to leave those people. You used to fit in that circle because you had that same mind state. You're not in that circle no more because you stepped outside of that. The moment you decide to change your life, you're no longer in that circle. Now you got to make the best of it. What happens? So, okay, now I got my Islam. Okay, I know that I have to grow in Islam, so I'm going to continue to study as I and elevate and implement my Islam. And the hidayah, the guidance, and we know that the guidance is from Allah. So then what happened? Now I gotta up the ante on my economic base. I gotta create, not so much so to become rich, because really Allah Ta'ala is the one who enriches, and He's the one who impoverishes people, right? Everybody has this sustenance written for them. But your ambition and your motivation is what you put in. That's where the blessings come from, and that's what you're responsible for, right? Family structure, right? That has to play a part as well. You have to, fix your structure. What type of family? What do I want from my family? Right? Or overall view. What do I want to do? Okay, we're gonna need somewhere to live. Okay, I got that. But me renting shouldn't be my only goal. See, sometimes you can tell the delusion and the delirium of the person in their thinking because their mind is set on, I want to live in this high scale, everything has to have a tag or a label to it. I want to live in an upscale neighborhood. I want to live like this. I want to live like that. Now, of course, I know people in their mind are saying, well, we always have to live in poverty. Nobody's saying that you have to live in poverty, but you should have bigger aspirations other than putting in the pockets, putting your money in the next man's pocket where they control. Everybody wants to talk about sovereignty and, I'm a man, puff your chest out. But your landlord, if he look at you and don't like you today, he could just throw you out. And he just take the loss. Yeah, I got discriminated against. Yeah, I might sue him, but I still get to keep my building. And I don't want him in here. Right? These are the things you have to think of. Every day that you look at, everything that you stand on, there's somebody able to pull a sheet right from underneath your feet. So you have to begin to think autonomous. And thinking autonomous, you're better off buying a quarter acre of land and building a double bunk trailer on there versus being able to, pay these multiple thousands of dollars to live in somebody's paper condominium, just to say that I got out the hood and I made it and this is what I got to show for it. Right. So, I'm gonna stop talking. Your brothers go ahead because I know we ain't got much time left. It's just a little quick, throw something together, chop it up, open panel. Anybody in the comments, in the comments section, the listeners, y'all want to, chime in, throw something in the comments, maybe we'll throw it up there, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. That was very beneficial, Imam Khalil. And you're right, So, I'm going to play my part because, sometimes I want to sit back and be educated by the guys that got more experience, right? And you spoke about something. I got a question for both of y'all. So I'm gonna ask Amir the Amir first. When you said right, getting in, you said getting involved with other like-minded people as yourself, right? So the question is, when you involve yourself with these like-minded people, right? What is the goal, right, that you must do with these like-minded people who, once you branch
I don't know.
off
Is it
into other,
me? I kind of like hear like a lagging in
is it me
whoever's
probably?
speaking. I
Can you
can't
hear me?
can't really hear you.
I don't have my earpiece, and I guess it's probably the speaker. Is it? Can you hear me better? Can you hear me better?
Hey, I hear you well.
Oh, mashallah. I don't know. Well, I'm gonna ask you, my Abu Muhammad. In the area you grew up in, right? What's the difference between the leaders then and your generation from you being a follower of these leaders, right? Because remember, we both put up a post of similarity where I said, some of the best of followers became the greatest leaders, right? So, starting from your generation of you being a follower, right? What was the difference between those leaders at the time, right? And then of the leaders of today? What's the difference that you've seen, culturally, and what have you experienced?
Now, when you say leaders, are you talking about what dynamic of leaders are you talking about? Are you talking about leaders related to my post that I made a few days ago, talking about the best African American Muslim leaders used to be former gang leaders, them type
All,
of leaders,
all,
or,
all around the board, such as that, right? Because even the
or
leaders in my generation, right?
the,
You
the,
know,
the political leaders, during
the
my
but
time.
the political let's talk about all the political leaders, the leaders of the streets. Because if we go to leaders of the streets, right? All right, let's start politics first. We had people that wasn't scared to voice their opinion and and didn't care what the outcome was after that if they reached their goal, right? We don't have those type of leaders no more, right? And even the street leaders now, the street leaders, send the young guys on dummy missions, right? And that's coming from my generation. All right, from your generation, all around, from the politics to the street leaders. What qualities did they have back then that these younger guys and the leaders have that don't have now?
Well, back in my time, I grew up in the '80s. So in the '80s in Chicago, you had religious leaders, and then you had street gang leaders. All right, many of the street gang leaders, depending on what street organization or street tribe organization it was, they had their religiosity. A lot of them became Muslim. A lot of them were Muslim during that time. And then you had the religious leaders. The religious leaders. There was also political, social political leaders as well. You had Imam Muhammad. You had Farrakhan. You had Jesse Jackson. You had Bobby Rush, which see he was involved in politics. Then he was like just what I'm saying, metamorphosing out of like the uh, black the BPM Black Power movement. With Bobby Rush, he was a former Black Panther. I think he was also with SNCC. So you had the difference between what I saw then and what I see now. What I see now is that back then they was able to um, get the attention of the youth. They was able to get the attention, spark the attention, and get the attention of the youth. They was able to have people along with them in place that was able to relate to the youth. What we have here now today, um, I don't see that type of leadership. I don't see that type of leadership that exists today. Um, Even in Chicago currently, I don't see that type of leadership. Wait a minute, hold on.
I can't hear you.
I said, go ahead, Shake. You got it.
Now I have a question for you, right? That's because I want to listen today, right? Because sometimes sitting back and listening, allows people to understand more. So this is about y'all, right? So now I'm gonna piggyback off of what he said, right? Uh, what makes why do you think the leaders now cannot catch the attention of the youth, as Imam Muhammad said?
They're not talking to them. They're talking about them, talking around them, but they're not talking to them. Yo, Muhammad, you mute your mic. We can hear you. They're not talking, they're not talking to them, right? It's talking about them. But like I said, they're not talking to them. The other problem is some of the youth don't have a sense of, how can I say it? Their principles, ideas, and morals are not the same. They don't share the same principles. So it lacks continuity. The continuity's not there. They lack the what they're going to pass down, the legacy. What is the legacy? Well, what exactly is the legacy? There's no rites to passage. And if you look, the consistency, what has been consistent is the destruction of two parent households, right? The first level of that is uh the increase of relationships and children being born out of wedlock, right? Then it got to the point, where, don't get married. That was the advice of people, and like we're almost, if you look at the Muslim community, I mean, we are literally like right there. If you have a person that's interested in marriage, most people try to talk them out of marriage before they marry, right? Find out everything wrong with the person. I mean, we're in a time where you teach a person about Islam, they ain't really too interested. But you talk about the person who's teaching Islam, everybody tunes in. Like, yo, did you hear that? Did you heard that? Right? So continuity. So really, we almost like a paper tiger. It don't take nothing to knock it down. So you got the mistrust. When the drugs came in back in the '80s, that destroyed the mistrust. Well, you had kids, if you've been on the corner selling crack, you see what these teenagers do to grown men. Disrespect grown men, kick them in their behind. A person that's like strung out on drugs, they almost become child. They're really like just a big body child. The mentality, the way they think, it controls them. So, there's always something that's intervening. So on the outside with the outside influences, and then you have that, like I said, that the lack of continuity. You're not talking to the youth, you're talking about the youth, but you're not talking directly to the youth. Most people can't understand. You can't understand them, and then they're left to believe what's on the television, or they develop this attitude like, all we got is us. It's us against the world. And usually that type of mentality, the only thing that they really have that's motivating them, which is really a lack of motivation, is nothing but depression. They just focus on what they don't have, you know, and so it either fuels anger or it puts them in a stupor state, and then, like I said, in order to take away the pain, they turn to drugs, or they find a religion for a little while, but they're more consistent with finding the drugs versus finding religion. So, hopefully I answered your question.
Nah, it did, and it just makes me think, right? Because I came from that culture, like we're like the how J. Cole said it, the middle child, right?
Mm-hmm.
The middle child. We're in the age bracket that we seen the 45s, the 50-year-olds out there, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then we also seen the 20-year-old guys out there doing what they're doing, and then they all seen us, right? So we're like the
Right.
middle child, right?
Right.
So it's like it makes total sense. And when it comes to leadership now, from what I see in my observation with dealing with these gangs and these organizations, as you all know what I do, is that the bag influenced them more than what a person knows, right? And
Right.
leader quality, you don't have to know anything, right? This is why the snitch culture died down, because the bag matters, right? A
Mm-hmm.
snitch nowadays get so much love because he has a bag, right? Because he got the bag, and they would do they would entertain what he has because he has the bag. So
Right.
now it's not about what you know; it's about what you got.
That's because the
What you
snitch
got that
became a
make
perfect
you
opportunist now. He's become an opportunist. He's made himself valuable.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. So that's why you see these young men out here, 15 years old, 14 years old, 13 years old, out here killing people because these people know that these young guys are opportunists,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that and
Mm-hmm.
that goes back to the main focus, what you said in the beginning. It goes to the household, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is being taught. My mother, used to say it, but she denies it now. But she used to tell my sisters, the guy ain't got no money, you better not talk to him. So that passes down now. So now you have everybody looking for the next come up. So these young
Right.
boys, you move them for a couple $100, they'll do anything for that. Anything to be notarized by somebody, right?
Right.
How we say clout, people are chasing clout, people chasing clout. No, they're chasing notoriety because in
Mm-hmm.
their homes they was devalued a lot, right?
Right. Right.
Nobody noticed them. The parents didn't notice them. Mom is always gone. Mom is only 33 years old. The daughter's 20. So the mom is out here trying to figure it out herself while she
Mm-hmm.
has an adult she got to raise at the same time. So she's
Mm-hmm.
not getting noticed how she's supposed to because mom is still young. Mom
And
is
if
still looking for
you ever
things.
notice how, a lot of parenting is now is when the child hits a certain age, it's just like get out. They ain't got no skill, no rhyme, no reason. They don't even know what to do. They don't know how to fill out an application. Don't have a driver's license, an ID. Just get out. You just gotta
Right,
go. You figure it out. You be all right. You
right,
know. And then by the time they hit 14, from 14 like to 18 to 20, that's all they hear. I can't wait for you to get out. Right? Or now you hear the children, I can't wait to get old to get a job and get out.
right.
So
And,
everybody's living to get away from
and,
each
and,
other.
and those children, and normally those children that have that mentality, they are the successful ones,
Yeah.
right? They
Because they don't want to go back.
because they don't want to go back. They really want to go out there. I'm gonna go get a job. They do anything possible to make that situation better, right?
But now look at I just want to just plug in with this. The bag, if you look at it, the way that people chase the concept thinking that happiness is with money is the way that you're supposed to be chasing Jannah as Muslims. And the way that they're trying to avoid poverty or going back and staying with my mom or my parents is the way they're supposed to be avoiding hellfire. How can you compete with the people and tell them, tell them, hey, this is it? They're almost like the same martyrs that, the historians documented when, when the West Africans were fighting against the Europeans during the colonialism. How can we defeat the people that when they look down the barrels of our guns, they see the leaves of paradise? How can we tell a person that, to fear Allah and guide them to the guidance, to show them the direction when the only thing that they see is money? You see what I'm saying? You hear money from the minbar. That's all dudes talk about. They condemn you for not having money, right? Every poor man is not, is not going to stay poor forever. Allah enriching him. But this is what has to happen. In order to grow, you have to have a solid belief system in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything else develops from there. If we don't have that solid, if we constantly keep using Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala almost like a lucky charm, or how the Christians use Jesus or a cross, symbolic signs of faith, right? But we don't truly believe and trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A lot of times we don't let things manifest itself, right? Like a person, let's say for instance, let's say a person is on his last meal, right? He doesn't go out and seek, how can I do it halal? Sometimes their mind go right into something haram, right? Immediately, like not even thinking twice. Then when you are able to get the thing, you don't even see the blessings as it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You look at it like, I went out here and did it, got it from the mud. You know that this is really the mind state of what also plays part in separating the child and the father. The credit is given to a lot of mothers, and mothers struggle. But however, if the shoe was on the other foot, if the child was with the father got to struggle to take care of the child too. But when you're constantly praising that person, you eliminate the other one. Yeah, my mom had to do it by herself. I had to do it. That was our reason to claim it while we were selling drugs. I'm tired of watching my mom struggle. She got up every day, busted chops. A lot of dudes, they threw their mom a couple dollars, but it wasn't about the mother. It wasn't about it. You see what I'm saying? So this is how, this is what's happening. So they look at getting the bag as obtaining paradise. You see what I'm saying? And they look at being, poverty or, or being under, living under somebody else's rule. They use that as motivation. Like, I don't want to go to hell.
Now, question real fast. Why are we the only culture, right? Mm-hmm. That looks at generations in a home as a bad thing, right? Like I see, I lived in Syracuse, right, and it is a predominant, African city as well. Like the Somalians is in there, right? Yeah. A lot of the Somalians is there, and if you look at them, right, you see 4 generations still in the home. No, right. So why are we the only ones that feel as though having 2 generations, which is only 2 generations in a home, is a bad thing, when you see in other cultures, even in the Indian culture, even the Spanish culture to a degree, right? Right. You see 4 or 5 generations. The mom is still there, the dad is there, the mother's there, the son is there, and the son is 25 and he has a wife, and everybody's together, and then that family that the daughter-in-law is with, their family is involved, and they all together. Why are we the only culture that feels as though it still exists? It still exists. It still exists within within our practices. Truthfully, I think the problem is because the complaints is always there, rather than looking at it like I'm trying to get on my feet. Like if you had a man that still lived at home with his peoples, he's embarrassed to say that. He's embarrassed, because we're frowning up on people, like, oh, because maybe the house don't look a certain way. You see what I'm saying? It don't look away. If you had a big house with some, some land, if you look at the people in the South, and that was the thing, that's also another thing. If you're a history buff, read this book by Carter G. Woodson called the Negro Migration to the North. But one of the things that I've recognized about this whole topic about migrating and things, when we moved to the north, a lot of seeking jobs, right, new opportunities. So what they did was they left
that family inheritance, because people in the South talk about family land. We still got the family land, and it'd be like, land from maybe their great grandfather, right? Here up north, this, Philly, one of the interesting cities. Another city, in America, even New York got it, where there were a lot of homeowners. But when the gentrification came around and they started wiggling, dangling the bag at people, like, look, we give you $100,000. They buy that house from you for 100,000, and now it's going for $1 million. You didn't understand. You didn't understand the property. You didn't understand the value of the property. So then you leave from having a house where you didn't have to pay for anything except taxes. Now you're going back to rent, and then you're picking up, rent. Now you're paying anywhere between $1,000 and $2,000 a month, right? And that wealth is just like diminishing. So the mind state, we don't understand our assets, assets, liability. We don't understand those basic things. These things need to be taught. They need to be learned. And Islam teaches that as well. There's a whole section in the Sharia called Babul Buyur, the section on buying and selling, inheritance, right? All of these things exist because Islam empowers you to be able to stand on your own, right? And not keep borrowing from everyone else, but stand on your own. So that's definitely, that's definitely important. But to answer your question a little bit more directly, I don't know. I guess because we want, we're such a, we're under the illusion. It's an illusion that that we become independent when we're able to do certain things without help. But the reality is we're always in need of help. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, ya ayyuhan nasu antumul fuqara ilallah, right? O mankind, all of you are destitute, in need, right? Ilallah, right? Except Allah. Allahu ghaniyun hamid. Allah Ta'ala is independent and he's praised, right? And look at the two attributes that he put on the end in closing that ayat. Independence and praise. From that independence, that saying you want to be able to stand on your own. And then what's the second thing? Clout, right? We was just talking about it. Clout. Hamid, he's praised. So, sometimes we have a God complex. We're trying to play God. So that hurts us. No.
How do you feel about that, Muhammad?
I'm gonna piggyback off of Khalil. Like I'm gonna give an example. All right. Now, when we're talking about community building, right? Can you build community in the city to where everyone is renting? Not so many people, not so many Muslim families are on their property. Not too many business owners or tradesmen or skillsmen or skills women. But when you talking about community building, is community building only conducive to financial building, financial structure, economics, or is it conducive to financial economics and family structure? Right? If it's both, then the idea is not to build community in a city to where it's already its own set community, because the businesses that you establish are to be in the city. It means that to build community, I mean, you got to purchase some land. Like we're in PA. I mean, you got Jersey. I mean, you got large scales of land that you can buy and purchase in Jersey, to where you could establish a community where everyone put the money together, buy that land, and each family buy a plot of land to build a house on, or ship a house in, a double wide trailer or whatever. I mean, to do something like that, then you would have to have all of the stuff related to getting land and property. You have to have the plumbers come in. You have to have the cement layers to come in. Each one of these are a skill. Unless, you know what I'm saying, that everyone, not everyone, but somebody within the community that you're building must know how to do it. At the same time, have those that's working with them that's doing it, that has the same skill, or you're teaching them the same skill to be able to build this community, right? So once that's established, then what else do you have to build on that community? You have to establish a school, you have to establish a clinic, you have to establish a school, you have to establish a clinic, you have to establish a bank, you have to establish a bank. I mean, you all of these institutions you have to establish on this community in this land. You have to have a grocery store, right? With all of these four elements that I had mentioned, if without these elements, then you're not a vibrant community. If you're talking about the community building, the first thing you need finance, right? But what do you need before the finance? You need trust. You need you need trust, and you need to appoint a leader. Islamically, I mean, you have to appoint in a leader. What the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said: when there's three people, they must appoint an Amir from amongst them, or Shaitan is going to become the Amir. So one, you have to appoint an Amir. You have to have trust in that Amir, and y'all have to have finance. After building that finance, then y'all gotta have the skill men to build a community. Before you even have the skill men, you gotta have the people that goes to the state to find out if this land is available to build your community on. As a result of that, what happens after that? Each family that's in that community, they either have to establish more businesses, or they have to work together to build in that community. I mean, as a result, you have people in the next either in the next city or the next town or the next province, to where you have the work of dawah, right? Because if this is a community that you're building, you're not going to give dawah to a Muslim. You're already Muslim. You know what I'm saying? If it's one community, and it's I forgot also, you have to establish a masjid too, right? You have to establish a masjid too. The school, you have to have teachers that teach secular knowledge and Islamic knowledge, right? To have the qualifications to teach. To have the qualifications to teach. So if you're just gathering money together, and it's a few people, I mean, that y'all utilizing the people, you know what I'm saying, and the people's resources, not y'all own resources, but the people's resources to assist y'all in what y'all supposed to be establishing as a family, as a community. Then the goal and objective is to get out of the cities. Because what do we have in the cities? What would be subjected to in the cities? Every subculture that has already been established in America. Like I remember back in the early '90s, when the I don't want to say the Fukara. I'm gonna say the Muslims of the MOA, the Muslims of Americas, right? When they first when they had their land, they had some land in upstate New York. They had land in Michigan. They had land in Tennessee. They had land in North Carolina, and they had lands somewhere else. But in each one of these lands, like the land in Michigan, I've been to the land in Michigan. It was like maybe, I want to say, 30 families there, right? It was from the Jamaat Muslims of Americas. Then you had New York, which I used to go up there to every summer, for, you know, a 2-week, 3-week retreat. it was more than a dean intensive. I mean, it was dean intensive, but it was also physical training, archery, um, uh, uh, um, repelling and all of these other programs there. When last time I was there, involved in a program. You know, so the next year it was talking about doing skydiving and scuba diving. All of these were skill sets that they were teaching the youth. You know, at the time I was a youth, but I was a youth that was like one of the older youth because I was in my 20s. I was in my 20s. I had a family at that. I had a family and all of that. I was in my 20s. But you know, my family started when I had a family when I was young too. You know, but during that particular time, you had brothers and sisters that was teaching the deen, Arabic, Quran, Hadith, all of these sciences, and then you had other skills. Brother was teaching martial arts. Muhammad Hussein, which one he was a sparring partner with Steven Seagal. He was teaching martial arts. You had brothers that was teaching fire, how to shoot rifles and how to do archery. And you had brothers who was teaching repelling and other military type of survival techniques in the woods. Now in New York is right in the middle of all this wilderness. So you had like bears. Sometimes bears will come on the land, and so you just shoot a AR-15 up in the air. They would run. I mean, so it was like right there in the wildlife. I mean, so you had in their community, the biggest thing was for them to move their youth out of the cities. You know what I'm saying? In New York, you had everybody from the five boroughs, from Brooklyn, from Queens, from Long Island, from Staten Island, the Bronx, Harlem, Manhattan, and then um, you had Muslims that was from like Rochester and other surrounding areas, uh, 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 um, Yonkers and other areas that you know what I'm saying that was in them areas. The reason why I had mentioned them is because they all brought their money together, put their money together. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying during this to build. You know what I'm saying? This idealism was what had existed, and this is what they had established. Now the climate that exists with them in regards to the neighbors of their land and the towns next to it, they have a relationship with these neighbors, political, social, political, and you know, and the means of giving dawah. You know what I mean? They also had in the early 2000s, as seen Muhammad Hussein, that was the Naib on the land in Michigan. He was, you know what I'm saying, him and a few other brothers was trying to start a political party. You know what I mean? This was like 2000, you know what I'm saying, right before 2001, right before 9/11. They was trying to start a political party. And I don't even think it really got off the ground, but this was like a lot of stuff that was changing politically in their community. All right. You know what I'm saying, the Muslims of America, they was separated from the Dar Islam movement. But when they separated from the Dar Islam movement, there was the Jamaat al-Fuqara. I mean, there was the Fuqara Jamaat. so that, you know what I'm saying, that's what I'm relating to, is that then having an objective on building family, building community. You have to have trust. You have to have trust. Right now, we live in a time where people come together, have an objective. They'll raise some money. Somebody run off with the money. Somebody that's unlikely to even run off with the money, they run off with the money. Nowhere to be found. What, you know what I'm saying? What is the blame focus goes to? Those who organize and established that um coalition to raise these funds for this particular or for any type of common goal, right? If your goal is to spread dawah, then there's so much money that can go to dawah. There has to be money that can go to establishing free clinics. Even if you're going to stay in the city, there's money that's going to have to go to certain ventures to establish certain institutions that if someone comes up with the idea to purchase land and to live on that land, all of these institutions have to be established. And it brings about a nucleus that each youth or people that are youth and older, they can come together and they can be a vibrant community, like the Jewish community that's in Jersey. They have them communities like that all over the country. Every major city you have a Chinatown. Why is that? Every major city you have a Little Italy. Every major city you have little Irish town, right? You know what I'm saying? Why does this exist? You know what I'm saying? Philadelphia is the only city that I done came to where they call what one area in particular is like called Little Africa, Southwest Philly. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, you ain't been to New York yet. You ain't been to the Bronx and
No,
Harlem.
I
That
ain't been to New
that
York.
just like the Ivory Coast stuff.
I ain't
The
been to New York
Mandingo,
really
the Mandingo village.
back in back in the 90s. You know what I mean? Back
Yeah.
in the early 90s and the late 90s. I didn't see that there. You know, I didn't see that there then. Why? Because I didn't stay there long enough to see it. You know what I'm saying? Like even in Chicago, you have Little Italy, you have the Irish section, you have Chinatown, which you know what I'm saying, when we was there when we was there last year, you know what I'm saying, you had went to Chinatown, and we didn't even drive all around Chinatown to actually give you a tour. When we was there, we just stopped at a couple of stores
Hmm.
and got what we
Now
needed to roll
the
out.
thing is this, Sheikh, the difference is with our people is that we haven't acknowledged the fact that we have a mainland, or we're separate. We're included. When you say like subcultures, each one of these cultures you name see themselves as their ethnic group, but they're part of the greater body of America. You see what I'm saying? Versus with us, we don't see ourselves as a group, an ethnic group, but we consider ourselves part of the greater body of America, but America don't accept us.
Yeah,
And so when you
we don't
got
look at
that, you don't dedicate your time in trying to build anything. The only thing you do is try to build yourself.
yeah,
And you
we
don't
don't
care
look at
about nobody else.
we don't look at ourselves as a nation of people.
Nah,
You mean, and
nah.
because of that, that's part of our downfall and failure in regards to coming together as a people.
Well,
Because
I'll tell you this.
we don't trust each other by default.
If you look at this, look at subconsciously, television and things of that nature, it always praises criminal enterprise. And I see when people are part of a criminal organization, they take pride in it. They wear it. Matter of fact, what do you call them? Street tribes.
Mm-hmm.
They take pride in that stuff. The same way you would take pride in your own ethnicity. And they build, they work, they have that mind state. Yo, we're gonna run from this area to this area, and then we'll expand over here. But then after that, you leave that criminal enterprise. You ain't got a brain to think your way out of a wet paper bag now. Now this is all like, just you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so then you have the infrastructure of Islam, and you got and within Islam it has what is known as Jamaat. And people don't utilize Jamaat either. Jamaats just break up. Like, look, I ain't going here no more. I'm gonna just go over there. They got better chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. I ain't going over there. I don't like the way he recite. He recite better over there. Not about the goal, the objective, or anything of that nature. It's just like I said, you got the plants in there, they're planted, and they just there to keep us, keep us separated. So we down on our final 10 minutes, inshallah. You have any closing remarks, statements, anything?
Well, well, inshallah ta'ala, um, I got an idea about the topic for next week, right? I'm gonna put it out there on the platform. Why our listeners, and if they want, I mean, they could make some suggestions or ask some questions, and please share the video, like the page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and hit the like on the YouTube channel, and on the video on the YouTube channel, and then subscribe to the page. Also like us on Facebook, Master Uthman Dan Fodio, and Tashdid Sunnah Institute. Um, yeah. So next week, I was I was thinking about us having a topic, and we could discuss, discuss this amongst ourselves later. But making a topic next week, our our social political climate. You know what I'm saying? That's a topic that I wanted to address. You know what I'm saying? To get, this is also one of the topics that my old head, which he don't real think he my old head, because the people that we know, you know what I'm saying, mutually, is pretty much in two different circles. They was, it's the older crowd that was either in his circle, or they was combatants with each other. So he always think that I'm the same age as him. But this topic, and I wanted to bring him on. You mean that he normally addresses this topic all the time. You know what I'm saying? In our related to our political climate, economics, and everything else. So that's one topic. And plus, I had talked to him tonight. He told me that reach out to him about the middle of the week, the beginning of the week, or the middle of the week, to see where he's gonna be at, because the time that we have the podcast, he may be on the hustle, or he might be, what I'm saying, stationary. You know what I mean? So he'll be able to, keep us abreast on what his positioning is gonna be next week. So, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, my only closing remark in regards to what we had brainstormed on and talked about, is that we, we need to have a conducive objective, and how to meet them objectives. You mean of these ideas that we bring to the table, and how we're going to get the involvement of everyone that's supporting it, not just those who put the idea out. That we all come together, and the purpose of this is to actually establish some unity. You can't have unity without trust, so you have to establish some trust in order to build unity. So that's my closing remarks. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
Hold on, there's a question. How important is growing a Jabbat in order to implement wider goals as a community? It's absolutely necessary. You had it during the time of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. If you just look at one, let's just look at two families, right? Abu Bakr Siddiq, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, his entire family was part of the Jabhat. The entire family. Daughters, everybody. Mother, wives, everyone. And then from them, their children, the grandchildren. Same thing, Abdullah ibn Umar. His brother was Muslim along with him. He was part of the movement. You know, I think if we, deal with things more so in an organic approach, you know, uh, approaching it that way, organically and growing, and each one teach one type of thing and build it based on trust. You'll have an expansion, and then when you have people come in by families, and then you intermarry into each other's family, you know so absolutely that grows into a larger community. You have two sets of tribes, three sets of tribes, four tribes, five tribes, and you start to intermarry that, makes the family larger, larger scale, versus it being like basically this accelerated accelerated practice of individualism. Individually, people are lonely out here. They don't have people to turn to. This is why a lot of people, and and not that Facebook is like totally bad, or social media. It has its benefits. It does give people outsource people. They can reach other people, and so on and so forth. Especially if they live in an area where it's not. And then if they want to make a hijrah, it gives them ideas, somewhere to to move to, or motivation. Sometimes, motivate you. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had Allah. He had Jibril, and you had the believers. And sometimes when you feel isolated and you that only person, you're looking for, that same push or that motivation. So hopefully that answers your question, inshallah.
I,
Saleh, you got any closing remarks? Oh, go ahead, man.
I wanted to touch on that too. Um,
Mm.
we have to also understand that building Jamaat should not be centered around conflict. One of the things I've noticed with social media, with Facebook, with the Facebook platform, is that people rally around you because you're fueling conflict, right? So when you establish a community, the community come together for a common goal, not associated with conflict. They have a goal to reach. You follow me? And they have to build. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's conflict or not, you know what I'm saying? Um, you can't move forward. You can't move forward engaged in conflict. You lose the objective. You lose the ideas that you're working for. You know what I'm saying? Once the conflict finished, how are you going to be able to get back on track and work towards the directive? Not going to be able to. So you'll have people that come to your match, they come to your community, as long as you're combating a adversary, right? You're at odds with some other community. Once that is gone, because they're fueled and breed by conflict, they find somewhere else. They find somewhere else to go to, and in order to keep your constituents, you have to move from one conflict to the next conflict. That's not Jamaat. That's chaos. That's chaos. You're killing whatever effort that you're trying to establish. It takes it away. So that's all I wanted to add onto that.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Saleh, any closing remarks? We about to close out, Sheikh. And for those of you still online, man, give us some likes, give us some hearts. We ain't get no love from y'all tonight. Inshallah. Show some love. Share the video, invite your friend, tell a friend to tell a friend. I guess Solly might be a little busy. Going once, going twice. How many live? We got one heart. How many live? Three times. I guess Solly's gone for the night. So with that, inshallah, we'll close out. Inshallah, we thank you all for taking your time, spending this time with us. Inshallah, hopefully it was a benefit to you, gave you some ideas. Hopefully it influences you. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us, in knowledge and iman and taqwa. You know, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك واشهد ان لا اله الا انت واستغفرك واتوب اليك. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh.
Salam rahmatullah wa barakatuh.